still don't understand why they invited us, I said as I adjusted my tie inside the taxi. Daniel laughed beside me. Because your company handles Sinclair Investments now. Try not to look terrified. I'm not terrified. You checked your hair in the window 6 times. I'm trying not to embarrass myself. You're walking into a room full of billionaires, Ethan. Embarrassing yourself is guaranteed. I rolled my eyes and stared out at Manhattan glowing under the night sky. The hotel looked more like a palace than a charity venue. Expensive cars lined the entrance while photographers shouted celebrity names outside. The second I stepped inside, I regretted coming. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling. Women wore dresses that probably cost more than my apartment rent. Men walked around holding champagne glasses while pretending they were important enough to own the city. Daniel leaned closer. Rule number 1. Don't fall in love with rich people. That's a weird rule. It's a smart rule. Before I could answer, the crowd suddenly shifted toward the grand staircase. Everyone started whispering. That's her, Olivia Sinclair. She looks unbelievable tonight. I turned toward the staircase and finally saw her. Olivia Sinclair walked down slowly in a black dress that made the entire room stare at her like she was royalty. Cameras flashed around her. People smiled too hard when she passed them. But the closer she came, the more confused I felt. She looked nervous. Not shy, terrified. Her smile looked rehearsed, like she'd practiced it in a mirror too many times. Daniel noticed my expression. Don't do it. Do what? Whatever stupid thing your face is planning. I'm just looking. You're emotionally curious. That's worse. A few minutes later, my boss dragged me toward a group of investors near the ballroom bar. I nodded through conversations I barely cared about until someone suddenly stepped beside me. You look miserable. I turned and nearly forgot how to breathe. Olivia Sinclair stood beside me holding a champagne glass. I'm sorry, I asked. She smiled faintly. Most people here look fake happy. You look honestly miserable. It's refreshing. I laughed awkwardly. I didn't realize misery had fans. It does tonight. For the first time since entering the hotel, she sounded normal. Human. Not like the perfect billionaire princess everyone worshipped. I'm Ethan, I said. I know. Your company's been working with my father. Should I be scared that you know who I am? You should probably be scared for many reasons. Something about the way she said it made my stomach tighten. Before I could respond, an older businessman interrupted us. Olivia, your father's looking for you. Her entire expression changed instantly. The warmth vanished from her face. I'll be there, she said quietly. The man walked away. I looked at her carefully. You okay? She forced another fake smile. Do I look okay? No. That's because you're paying attention. She walked away before I could say anything else. Hours passed, but I kept noticing her across the ballroom. She smiled for photos, shook hands, spoke politely, but every time people stopped looking at her, the sadness returned. Near midnight, I escaped onto the outdoor balcony for air. A cold breeze hit my face. Then I heard her voice behind me. So this is where emotionally exhausted people hide. I smiled. You followed me? You look like you were about to jump out a window. I was thinking about it. She laughed softly and leaned against the railing beside me. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Finally, she whispered, Do you ever feel trapped inside your own life? I looked at her. Sometimes. My father planned my entire future before I turned 16. That sounds awful. It is awful. You could walk away. No, I can't. Why not? Her eyes lowered toward the city lights. Because people like my father don't let people leave. The sadness in her voice felt too real to ignore. You're scared of him, I said quietly. She looked surprised. Most people are scared of disappointing him. No, you're actually scared. She stared at me for a long moment before speaking again. You're different from the people here. That might be the nicest way anyone's ever called me poor. She laughed harder this time. Real laughter. Not the polished version she gave everyone else. I'm serious, she said. You talk to me like I'm normal. You are normal. You have no idea how wrong you are. The words hit harder than they should have. I noticed her hands trembling slightly against the railing. You cold? I asked. No. Nervous? All the time. What? She looked toward the ballroom doors carefully before answering. Because eventually people see the truth. What truth? Instead of answering, she suddenly asked, "Do you trust people easily?" Probably more than I should. That's dangerous. My best friend says the same thing. Your best friend sounds intelligent. He also said rich families hide ugly secrets. Her expression froze for half a second. That tiny reaction told me everything. Before I could apologize, she stepped closer to me, close enough that I could smell her perfume, close enough that my heart started beating stupidly fast. "Maybe he's right," she whispered. Then, without warning, she kissed me. It lasted only seconds, but it felt powerful enough to stop my thoughts completely. When she pulled away, her breathing sounded uneven. "Olivia, if you stay near me," she whispered, "your life will never be normal again." I laughed nervously. "That sounds dramatic." She didn't laugh back. Her eyes looked terrified, deadly serious. And for the first time that night, I realized Daniel might have been right all along. I should have walked away. I should have listened to every warning Daniel gave me before the party even started. But something inside Olivia's broken expression pulled me closer instead. I didn't understand her yet, but I already knew one dangerous thing. I wanted to save her. 2 weeks after the charity event, I was spending more nights at Olivia's penthouse than at my own apartment. It happened fast. Too fast. Daniel kept warning me about it. "This is exactly how horror movies start," he said while we ate lunch near my office. "I'm dating a woman, not entering a haunted house. She's a billionaire with emotional issues. That's richer and scarier." I laughed. "You're being dramatic." "No, you're being stupid." I ignored him because every moment with Olivia felt strangely addictive. When she smiled naturally, I forgot every warning sign around her. But the warning signs kept growing. The first time it happened, I woke up at 3 in the morning hearing her scream. Not a normal scream. Pure terror. I sat up instantly. "Olivia." She was sitting against the headboard, shaking violently, breathing so hard it scared me. Hey, it's okay," I whispered. The second I touched her arm, she flinched away from me. Her eyes looked confused, like she didn't recognize me. "It's me," I said softly. "Ethan." She stared at me for several seconds before finally calming down. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "You don't have to apologize. I woke you up. You were screaming like someone was killing you." Her face went pale. "Did I say anything?" "No." She looked relieved. That reaction bothered me. I reached for her hand carefully. "Do you want to talk about it?" "No." "Olivia, please." The fear in her voice stopped me. The next morning, she acted completely normal. Too normal. Almost like the breakdown never happened. A few days later, I noticed another strange thing. She avoided mirrors. At first, I thought I imagined it. But then I saw her freeze in front of a hallway mirror before suddenly turning it toward the wall. "Why'd you do that?" I asked. "I hate mirrors." That's a very specific hatred. They make me uncomfortable. "What?" She forced a smile. "You ask too many questions, and you avoid too many answers." For a second, tension filled the room. Then she kissed me suddenly, like she wanted to distract me from thinking too much. The worst moment happened during dinner with her father. Richard Sinclair terrified me before he even spoke. He carried himself like a man who believed the entire world belonged to him. The expensive restaurant had been completely reserved for his private meeting, which already felt insane to me. Richard barely looked at me while drinking his wine. So, he finally said, "You work in financial analysis." "Yes, sir." "How ordinary." Olivia sighed quietly. "Dad, I'm simply curious what exactly makes a middle-class analyst interesting enough for my daughter." I forced a polite smile. "I'm still trying to figure that out myself." He smirked slightly. "At least you're self-aware." I could feel Olivia getting tense beside me. Then soft piano music started playing across the restaurant. The second Olivia heard it, everything changed. Her fork slipped from her hand. Her breathing became uneven. "Olivia," I whispered. She stared toward the piano player in complete horror. Her hand started shaking violently. "Turn it off," she whispered. Richard's expression darkened immediately. "Olivia, turn it off." People around us started staring. I grabbed her hand gently. "Hey, look at me." But she suddenly pulled away from me hard enough to knock over her chair. I said, "Turn it off." The entire restaurant went silent. Then Olivia ran toward the bathroom. I stood quickly. I'll go after her. Richard grabbed my arm before I could leave. Don't. I stared at him. She's clearly not okay. She'll calm down. You sound used to this. His cold expression didn't change. Some problems in life require silence, Mr. Carter. I pulled my arm away. She's your daughter, not a business scandal. For the first time, his eyes looked dangerous. You know absolutely nothing about my family. I ignored him and walked toward the bathroom anyway. Inside, I heard Olivia crying behind the locked door. Olivia, it's me. Go away. I'm not leaving. Silence. Then a small whisper. I'm sorry. You don't need to apologize. Just open the door. A minute later, she finally opened it. Mascara streaked her face. Her hands still trembled. I stepped closer carefully. Talk to me. She stared at the floor. After my mother died, I developed severe trauma. What kind of trauma? I don't like loud arguments. Certain songs trigger panic attacks. Sometimes I wake up confused. Why didn't you tell me? Because people leave when they hear words like trauma. I'm still here. Her eyes filled with emotion so quickly it hurt me. You shouldn't be, she whispered. A week later, she asked me to move into her penthouse. We were sitting on the living room floor eating takeout when she suddenly said, "Stay here permanently." I blinked. What? You already spend every night here. That's different. No, it isn't. I studied her carefully. Why do you really want me here? She looked embarrassed. Because I sleep better when you're near me. The honesty in her voice destroyed my ability to say no. So I moved in. And that decision changed everything. 3 nights later, Olivia fell asleep early after another stressful dinner with her father. I went searching for aspirin inside the bathroom cabinet because my head was killing me. That's when I found the medication bottles hidden behind towels. My stomach tightened instantly. The bottles didn't say Olivia Sinclair. They said Claire Holloway. I picked one up slowly. Prescription sedatives. Antipsychotic medication. My pulse started racing. Who the hell was Claire Holloway? I searched deeper through the cabinet. More bottles. More prescriptions. Different dates. Different dosages. Then I heard Olivia's voice behind me. What are you doing? I turned instantly. She stood frozen in the doorway. The fear in her eyes terrified me more than her anger ever could. Not fear of getting caught. Fear of something much worse. Her breathing became uneven again. Olivia, put them back. Her voice sounded hollow. I held up one bottle carefully. Who's Claire? She looked like she might completely fall apart. Then she whispered something that made my blood run cold. You weren't supposed to find those. I barely slept after finding the medication bottles. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the fear on Olivia's face. Not guilt, not embarrassment. Fear. The next morning, she acted like nothing happened. I made coffee, she said softly while standing in the kitchen. I stared at her carefully. Who's Claire Holloway? Her hand froze around the coffee mug. We're doing this now. Yes. She avoided my eyes. It's complicated. Try me. Ethan. No more half-truths. For several seconds, silence filled the penthouse. Then she whispered, please trust me a little longer. That depends on whether you're lying to me. Pain crossed her face instantly. I'm trying not to lose you. The honesty in her voice weakened me immediately, but confusion still ate at my mind. Later that afternoon, while Olivia attended a business meeting with her father, I started investigating on my own. I knew it was wrong, but something deep inside me already sensed the truth would be worse than I imagined. I searched public records online first. Nothing. Then I searched older news archives connected to the Sinclair family. That's when I found it. A small article from 8 years ago. Woman killed in late night car accident. Name, Claire Holloway. Connection to Sinclair family under investigation. My stomach tightened. I opened the article fully. The accident happened near one of Richard Sinclair's private properties. Witnesses claimed another vehicle left the scene before police arrived. No suspects were ever charged. No follow-up investigation existed. Almost like the entire story disappeared intentionally. Then I noticed another name mentioned inside the article. Dr. Amelia Reed, consulting psychiatrist connected to the Sinclair family. I immediately searched her office address. 2 hours later, I stood outside a private psychiatric clinic in Manhattan, feeling completely insane. The receptionist stopped me politely. Do you have an appointment? No, but I really need to speak with Dr. Reed. What's this regarding? Olivia Sinclair. The receptionist's expression changed slightly. Please wait. 10 minutes later, a woman in her 40s opened the office door. You're Ethan Carter. It wasn't a question. You know who I am? I know Olivia talks about you constantly. Dr. Amelia Reed invited me inside carefully. The office smelled like tea and old books. You look nervous, she said. I found medication bottles. Her expression immediately became guarded. She never wanted you involved in this. Involved in what? Dr. Reed studied me silently before speaking. How much do you know? Almost nothing. That may actually be safer. I leaned forward. I found records about Claire Holloway dying in a car accident. For the first time, Dr. Reed looked genuinely uncomfortable. She wasn't supposed to find out about that article, she muttered quietly. What does Claire have to do with Olivia? Dr. Reed exhaled slowly. I can't violate patient confidentiality. Then tell me whether I should be scared. Her silence answered too much already. Finally, she spoke carefully. Olivia experienced severe psychological trauma when she was young. What kind of trauma? I can't discuss details. Was Claire real? Dr. Reed looked directly in my eyes. Yes and no. That answer terrified me more than a direct explanation would have. What does that even mean? Before she could answer, my phone buzzed. Olivia. I stared at the screen. She knows where you are, Dr. Reed said quietly. I answered immediately. Hello. Her breathing sounded uneven already. Where are you? At work. Don't lie to me. I closed my eyes. How did you know? Because I know exactly what happens when people start searching for Claire Holloway. Olivia, come home. Her voice cracked badly on the last word. By the time I returned to the penthouse, rain hammered against the windows. Olivia stood near the balcony holding a glass of whiskey with shaking hands. You went through my past behind my back. I needed answers. You should have asked me. I did ask you. She looked away instantly. That silence told me enough. I stepped closer carefully. Who's Claire? Olivia's breathing became uneven again. Then suddenly she started crying. Not soft crying. Completely broken crying. I tried so hard to keep you away from this. I grabbed her shoulders gently. Away from what? She stared at me through tears. Claire isn't another woman. My chest tightened. She's me. I felt the entire room go silent. What? I have dissociative identity disorder. The words barely registered inside my head. Olivia continued speaking between shaky breaths. When I was 14, I witnessed something horrible inside our house. After that, she swallowed hard. My mind fractured. I struggled to process her words. You're saying Claire is another personality? She nodded slowly. Sometimes I lose time. Sometimes I wake up and don't remember entire nights. I stepped backward without realizing it. Pain flashed across her face immediately. See? She whispered. That's why I didn't want you knowing. I'm trying to understand. You can't. Then help me. She wiped tears from her face angrily. Claire became everything I couldn't survive being. Confident, reckless, angry. And the medication? It helps control dissociation episodes. I stared at her in disbelief. Every strange moment suddenly made horrible sense. The panic attacks, the mirrors, the nightmares, the fear. How long has this been happening? Since my mother died? What exactly did you witness? Her face went pale instantly. I can't talk about that yet. I sat down slowly, trying to breathe normally. Part of me wanted to run. Another part wanted to hold her. I hated myself for feeling both.
Olivia noticed my expression. You're scared of me now. I'm scared for you. That's worse. Silence filled the room again. Then she whispered something so quietly, I almost missed it. There's more. A cold feeling moved through my stomach. What more? She looked completely shattered now. Years ago, during one of my blackouts, someone died. I stopped breathing. Olivia covered her mouth while crying harder. I woke up covered in blood, she whispered. I couldn't remember what happened. My heart pounded violently. Olivia, my father buried everything. Police reports disappeared. Witnesses disappeared. Everyone disappeared. I stared at her in horror. You think Claire killed someone? I don't know. That's not an answer. Because I don't know, she screamed. The pain in her voice echoed through the penthouse. Then she collapsed onto the floor, sobbing. I don't know what's wrong with me, she whispered brokenly. I stood frozen for several seconds, terrified, confused, heartbroken. Then I slowly sat beside her. And despite every warning screaming inside my head, I wrapped my arms around her anyway.
After Olivia confessed everything, the penthouse stopped feeling safe. Every silence felt heavy. Every strange look made my stomach tighten. But somehow, I still couldn't leave her. That scared me almost as much as her condition. 3 days after a breakdown, I secretly met Dr. Amelia Reed again. She sat across from me inside her office with tired eyes. You look worse, she said softly. I'm sleeping beside someone who sometimes becomes another person. That's not how dissociative identity disorder works. Then explain it to me. Dr. Reed folded her hands carefully. Olivia experienced severe psychological fragmentation after repeated trauma. Claire developed as a defense mechanism, and Richard Sinclair covered everything up. Her silence confirmed it immediately. How much did he hide? I asked. A lot. Did Olivia kill someone? Dr. Reed hesitated too long. I can't discuss legal matters. That's not a no. She was never properly treated. Why? Because Richard cared more about protecting the Sinclair name than helping his daughter heal. Anger burned through me instantly. He had money, power, resources. So why didn't he help her? Because therapy records leak. Diagnoses create scandals. Richard feared public humiliation more than Olivia's suffering. I stared at the floor in disbelief. That's monstrous. Dr. Reed sighed quietly. You're finally seeing the real Richard Sinclair. Then why does Olivia still defend him? Because damaged children usually love their parents anyway. Her words stayed trapped in my head long after I left. That night, Olivia sat alone near the penthouse windows drinking wine. You disappeared all day, she said without turning around. I had work. You're lying again. I froze. Slowly, she looked at me. Something felt different immediately. Her posture, her expression, even her voice sounded colder. You met Amelia Reed, she said calmly. How did you know? Because you're predictable. A chill moved through me. Olivia. No, she interrupted softly. Not Olivia tonight. My heart stopped. What does that mean? She smiled faintly. But it wasn't Olivia's smile. It looked sharper, crueler. You've been asking about Claire, she whispered. So now you're talking to her. I felt my pulse hammering violently. You're joking. No. She walked toward me slowly. Every instinct inside me screamed to step backward. But I couldn't move. You look disappointed, she said. I thought curiosity was your favorite hobby. Olivia, stop. She's sleeping right now. That's impossible. Claire laughed softly. You really still think normal rules apply inside this family? I stared at her face, desperately searching for Olivia inside it. But the warmth was gone. Completely gone. What do you want from me? I whispered. She stepped closer. To know whether you're strong enough to survive us. Then suddenly her expression changed. Like a light switching off. Confusion filled her eyes instantly. Ethan, I grabbed her shoulders. Olivia. She blinked repeatedly. Why are you looking at me like that? Fear flooded through me. You don't remember? Remember what? I couldn't answer. Because I didn't even understand what just happened myself. Later that night, Olivia cried in my arms for almost an hour. I'm trying so hard, she whispered. Please don't leave me. I'm still here. You shouldn't be. I know. She looked up at me painfully. Are you scared of me? I answered too honestly. Sometimes. The truth hurt her immediately. But she nodded slowly anyway. That's fair. I held her tighter after that. Not because my fear disappeared. Because it didn't. It was growing. A week later, Richard Sinclair invited us to dinner at his mansion again. The entire evening felt tense before it even started. Richard barely acknowledged me. You still live in that tiny apartment downtown? He asked while cutting his steak. I moved. With Olivia? Yes. His expression darkened instantly. That seems irresponsible. Olivia sighed. Dad, stop. I'm protecting you. No, she snapped quietly. You're controlling me. Richard ignored her completely and looked at me instead. You enjoy this lifestyle, don't you? What lifestyle? Private jets, luxury penthouses, unlimited money. I care about your daughter. That wasn't my question. Before I could respond, another voice interrupted. Well, this family dinner already feels miserable. I turned toward the entrance. A tall man walked into the dining room, smiling arrogantly. Expensive suit, drunk eyes, dangerous energy. Olivia immediately looked horrified. Lucas, she whispered. He grinned. Miss me? Richard's jaw tightened instantly. You weren't invited. And yet here I am. Lucas dropped into a chair beside me and poured himself whiskey. Then he looked directly at Olivia. So, he said casually, how's the insanity going? Lucas, Richard warned sharply. What? Lucas laughed. We're pretending she's normal again. Olivia's hands started trembling. I stood immediately. That's enough. Lucas looked amused. Ah, the boyfriend's protective. Shut up. He smirked at me. You really have no idea what you moved into, do you? Leave her alone. Oh, I'm not attacking her. He leaned closer. I'm warning you. Richard slammed his glass onto the table. Stop talking. Lucas ignored him completely. You know Dad spent millions hiding her little episodes? Olivia stood suddenly. Stop. You know people disappeared after her breakdowns? Stop. The entire room went silent. Olivia looked seconds away from collapsing. Richard stood immediately. Dinner's over. Lucas laughed while standing. That's the Sinclair family tradition. Hide everything ugly. Before leaving, Lucas stopped beside me privately. His alcohol-filled breath smelled sharp. You think Olivia's the victim? He whispered. I stared at him silently. His smirk slowly disappeared. You have no idea what she's capable of. Then he walked away laughing softly. The words stayed trapped inside my head the entire drive home. Beside me, Olivia stared silently out the car window. And for the first time since meeting her, I honestly didn't know whether I was trying to save her or survive her. Richard Sinclair's birthday party looked more like a political summit than a family celebration. Luxury cars covered the driveway. Security guards stood at every entrance. Famous investors, celebrities, and politicians filled the mansion with fake smiles and expensive perfume. And somehow Olivia looked calm. Too calm. You okay? I whispered while adjusting my tie beside her. She nodded slowly. I practiced. That's not comforting. A faint smile crossed her face. I just need tonight to end quietly. I squeezed her hand gently. Then we survive it together. For a second, her expression softened. Then Richard approached us. You're late, he said coldly. We arrived exactly on time, Olivia replied. Richard ignored her completely and looked at me instead. Stay close to her tonight. I frowned. That's your advice? That's a warning. Before I could respond, he walked away toward another group of guests. Olivia stared after him bitterly. He talks to employees with more affection than his own children. You still came. I always come. The sadness in her voice hurt me. Hours passed slowly. Everywhere we walked, people stared at Olivia like she was royalty. But underneath her perfect posture, I could feel tension building inside her. Her hands trembled slightly whenever someone mentioned family. Then Lucas arrived. Drunk, smiling, dangerous. Well, he announced loudly near the ballroom entrance, the royal family survived another year. Several guests laughed nervously. Richard's jaw tightened instantly. You're embarrassing yourself. That's genetic. Lucas grabbed champagne from a passing waiter and walked directly toward Olivia. You look tense, sister. Go away, Lucas. Oh, come on. He grinned at nearby guests. She only gets violent when stressed. Olivia froze instantly. I stepped between them. Enough. Lucas laughed. Relax, Ethan. You deserve honesty. Richard moved closer quickly. Not here. Why? Lucas asked loudly. Afraid your investors might learn the billionaire princess hears voices? The room suddenly went silent. Every nearby guest stared at Olivia. Her breathing immediately changed. Lucas, I warned. But he kept going. Tell them about Claire, he said mockingly. That's my favorite personality. Olivia stepped backward slowly. Stop, she whispered. Lucas smiled cruelly. Or what? You'll black out again? Richard looked furious now. Not at Lucas. At the attention. Control yourself. He snapped at Olivia quietly. I stared at him in disbelief. Are you serious right now? She's creating a scene. Olivia's hands shook violently beside me. People whispered around us. Some looked uncomfortable. Others looked entertained. I grabbed Olivia carefully. Let's leave. But Lucas suddenly blocked our path. No. The party's finally interesting. Then he looked directly at the guests. Did Dad ever tell you about the dead body? My blood ran cold. Olivia looked seconds away from collapsing. Richard grabbed Lucas violently. Enough. Lucas shoved him away laughing. See, he shouted. That's the Sinclair family business model. Threats, lies, and cover-ups. Olivia suddenly screamed. Not words. Just pain. Raw, broken pain. The entire ballroom froze. Then she dropped to her knees, shaking violently. I immediately held her shoulders. Olivia, look at me. But her eyes looked distant. Lost. No, she whispered repeatedly. Richard looked around frantically at the guests. Everyone calm down, he announced stiffly. My daughter simply needs space. I nearly hit him. She needs help. Olivia suddenly pushed me away hard enough to stumble backward. Then she ran, straight upstairs. Olivia, I shouted. I started after her immediately, but security blocked the staircase. Richard stepped in front of me. Let my staff handle it. Are you insane? She cannot embarrass this family further tonight. I stared at him in horror. That's your concern right now. Before he could answer, a loud crash echoed upstairs. Then another. Guests started panicking. Smoke suddenly poured from the second-floor hallway. Someone screamed, "Fire!" Chaos exploded instantly. People shoved each other toward exits. Champagne glasses shattered across the floor. Security guards yelled directions while smoke spread rapidly through the mansion. My heart stopped. Olivia. I pushed past everyone toward the staircase. Richard grabbed my arm. Where are you going? She's upstairs. Forget her for a second. I stared at him in disbelief. My office is upstairs, he said urgently. There are confidential files inside. I yanked my arm away violently. Your daughter is upstairs. You don't understand what's in those files. For the first time in my life, I truly hated someone. She's your child. But Richard already shouted at security instead. Say the office. I ran upstairs without him. Smoke burned my lungs instantly. The hallway glowed orange from spreading flames. Olivia, I screamed. No answer. Heat slammed in me harder with every step. Doors stood open everywhere. Furniture burned. The mansion sounded alive with destruction. Then I heard coughing near Richard's office. I kicked the door open. Olivia stood inside, surrounded by flames. Completely frozen. Her face looked empty. Terrified. Broken. Olivia. She slowly turned toward me. Tears streamed down her face.
Claire did this, she whispered. The office behind her burned violently now. Papers floated through the air like ash. I grabbed her arm immediately. We have to go. She resisted weakly. No. Yes. She wanted everything destroyed. I pulled her toward me harder. I don't care about Claire right now. Part of the ceiling suddenly collapsed beside us. Olivia screamed. That finally broke her shock. I wrapped my arm around her and dragged her toward the hallway through thick smoke. The heat felt unbearable now. Halfway downstairs, Olivia nearly collapsed coughing. I can't breathe. Yes, you can. Ethan. Move. We finally burst outside with firefighters rushing toward the mansion. Olivia collapsed against me, shaking violently, while smoke covered the night sky. Then police officers suddenly rushed past us toward Richard Sinclair. One detective held several burned folders recovered from the office. Richard's face lost all color instantly. What's this? The detective demanded. Even from across the driveway, I heard the words clearly. Financial fraud, bribery, illegal accounts. Richard looked horrified. Not because his house burned down. Not because his daughter almost died. Because his secrets survived the fire long enough to destroy him. And standing beside Olivia while she cried against my chest, I realized the Sinclair empire had finally started collapsing, The Sinclair empire started collapsing 3 days after the fire. Every news channel covered the scandal nonstop. Financial fraud, bribery, illegal offshore accounts, corporate intimidation. Richard Sinclair's face appeared everywhere beside words like corruption and investigation. And somehow, that still wasn't the worst part. The worst part was watching Olivia blame herself for all of it. "I destroyed my family," she whispered one morning while sitting silently in the penthouse kitchen. I shook my head immediately. "No. Your father destroyed it years ago. He only got exposed because of me. He got exposed because he's guilty." She stared into her coffee quietly. Then she whispered something that hurt me deeply. "Claire wanted everything burned down." I sat beside her slowly. "You are not Claire. You still don't understand." Before I could answer, her phone started ringing again. "Richard." She ignored it instantly. The phone rang again. And again. Finally, she answered with shaking hands. "What?" Even from across the kitchen, I heard Richard screaming. "You ruined us." Olivia closed her eyes painfully. "Dad. Federal investigators searched my office. Because of you. They found crimes because you committed crimes. You ungrateful little." She hung up suddenly and burst into tears. I immediately pulled her into my arms. "It's okay." "No, it isn't." Her entire body shook while crying. "I can't keep hurting people. You're trying to heal. I'm trying not to become dangerous." The honesty in her voice terrified me. 2 days later, Olivia checked herself into a psychiatric treatment center voluntarily. Watching her leave destroyed me emotionally. At the entrance, she held my hand tightly. "You don't have to stay with me through this." "I know. I mean it, Ethan. I'm still here." Her eyes filled with tears instantly. "That's the problem." Before I could respond, nurses gently guided her inside. For the first time in months, I returned to my apartment alone. And the silence felt unbearable. Daniel visited me later that night carrying beer and terrible advice. "You look like death." "Thanks. I try my best." He sat beside me on the couch carefully. "So what now?" "I don't know." "You still love her?" "Yes." "That's rough." I laughed bitterly. "That's your wisdom?" I'm emotionally unqualified for billionaire psychological warfare. Despite everything, I smiled slightly. Then the television suddenly switched to breaking news. Victoria Hale stood outside Sinclair Investments speaking to reporters. "I had no knowledge of Richard Sinclair's illegal actions," she announced dramatically. I stared at the screen in disbelief. Daniel snorted. "That woman looks evil professionally." Victoria continued speaking calmly. "I fully support the federal investigation." I immediately understood what was happening. She's betraying him. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Smart survival strategy. The next morning, news leaked that Victoria secretly provided company documents to investigators. Richard Sinclair officially lost control of his own corporation that afternoon. Karma arrived fast. But instead of satisfaction, I just felt exhausted. A week later, I visited Olivia at the treatment center. She looked healthier already. Still fragile, but calmer. We sat together in the facility garden while cold wind moved through the trees. "How are they treating you?" I asked. "Honestly, that sounds terrifying." "It is." For a moment, she almost smiled. Then her expression darkened again. "Amelia says I spent years pretending I was fine instead of getting real help. You were surviving. I was hiding. I stayed quiet." Olivia looked directly at me. "You love the version of me that doesn't really exist." The words hit me like a knife. "That's not true." "Yes, it is. I love you. You love the version that laughs with you, sleeps beside you, makes you feel safe." Tears filled her eyes slowly. "But that's not all I am." I struggled to answer, because part of me feared she was right. Olivia noticed my silence immediately. "That look right there," she whispered painfully. "That's why I had to come here. You think I'm scared of you. I think you're trying not to be." Neither of us spoke after that. And somehow, the silence felt more painful than arguing. Later that evening, my younger sister Grace visited my apartment unexpectedly. The second she saw my face, She hugged me tightly. You look broken, she whispered. I feel broken. We sat near the kitchen drinking coffee quietly before she finally asked, Do you hate Richard Sinclair? Yes. Do you want revenge? I thought about it honestly. Yes. Grace nodded slowly. Then be careful.
Grace nodded slowly. Then be careful. What's that supposed to mean? Hurt people eventually enjoy hurting others. I stared at her silently. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand gently. You spent months drowning in someone else's darkness, Ethan. Don't carry it forever. Her words stayed trapped in my mind afterward. A few days later, another scandal exploded publicly. Lucas Sinclair disappeared overseas after stealing millions from remaining Sinclair accounts. News reporters called him a fugitive. Richard called him a traitor. I called it predictable. Everything around the Sinclair family kept collapsing violently. Money, power, reputation, trust, all of it burned away piece by piece. And somehow, I still couldn't stop thinking about Olivia, sitting alone inside that treatment center, trying to rebuild herself from emotional ruins. One night, while staring out my apartment window, I realized something terrifying. For months, I blamed Richard, blamed Claire, blamed the Sinclair family. But my real battle wasn't against them anymore. It was against the anger growing inside me, the bitterness, the paranoia, the emotional exhaustion poisoning everything inside my head. I barely recognized myself anymore. And for the first time since meeting Olivia Sinclair, I finally understood something painful. Trauma doesn't destroy only one person. It spreads, quietly, like fire. 6 months after the fire, Richard Sinclair looked like a completely different man. The powerful billionaire who once controlled politicians and corporations now lived alone inside a small private estate outside Manhattan. Most of his money was gone. Most of his business partners disappeared. News channels stopped calling him powerful. Now they called him disgraced. And somehow, he still blamed everyone except himself. Olivia finished intensive psychiatric treatment the same week Richard requested one final meeting. I don't want to see him, she whispered while sitting across from me in a quiet cafe. You don't have to. He says he's dying. I frowned. Is he? No idea. You think he's manipulating you? He manipulated everyone. I reached across the table and held her hand gently. You don't owe him anything. Olivia stared down at our hands silently. Then she whispered, I need closure. The fear in her voice made my chest tighten. So 2 days later, I drove her to Richard's estate myself. The house looked cold and empty compared to the mansion that burned down months earlier. No reporters, no security teams, no luxury parties, just silence. Olivia stopped walking near the entrance. I can't breathe. I grabbed her hand carefully. Look at me. Her eyes trembled with panic. You're safe. What if Claire comes back? She won't. You don't know that. I stepped closer. No matter what happens inside, you're not alone anymore. For several seconds, she just stared at me. Then she nodded weakly. Richard waited inside, the living room looking older than I remembered. Smaller too. He stood slowly when Olivia entered. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Richard looked at me coldly. You can wait outside. No, Olivia said immediately. He stays. Something about her voice surprised Richard. Maybe because it sounded stronger now. He sat back down heavily. You look healthier, he told her. Olivia laughed bitterly. That's your opening sentence? I'm trying. No, she replied quietly. You're performing. The tension inside the room felt suffocating. Richard rubbed his face tiredly. Everything collapsed because people betrayed me. Olivia stared at him in disbelief. That's what you think happened? Victoria leaked documents. Lucas stole money. Federal investigators twisted facts. You committed crimes. I protected this family. You protected yourself. Richard suddenly stood angrily. You have no idea what pressure looks like. Olivia flinched instantly. That small reaction broke something inside me. Even after everything, she still feared him. Richard noticed it too. His anger faded slightly. I didn't mean. Yes, you did. Olivia interrupted quietly. Silence filled the room again. Then Olivia slowly sat down across from him. For the first time since I met her, she looked completely calm. Not fragile. Not terrified. Just honest. You spent years telling me my illness destroyed this family, she whispered. Richard looked away. But you never admitted where it came from. Olivia. No. You're finally going to listen. Her voice shook slightly now. The night Mom died, you were screaming at her. Richard froze instantly. You were fighting about another woman. I heard everything from upstairs. His face lost color. Olivia continued, speaking through tears. She tried leaving the house. You grabbed her arm. She fell down the staircase. Richard whispered immediately. It was an accident. I know it was. Olivia shouted. The pain in her voice echoed through the room. You think I wanted to hate you? She cried. I was 14 years old. Richard collapsed back into his chair silently. Olivia's breathing became uneven again, but she kept going. I saw Mom bleeding on the floor while you screamed for servants to hide everything before police arrived. Tears rolled down Richard's face now. I was protecting you. No, Olivia whispered. You were protecting your reputation. He covered his face with shaking hands. I panicked. You silenced me for years, she continued painfully. Doctors, medication, private therapists, locked rooms. Her voice cracked badly. You care more about newspapers than your daughter losing her mind. I didn't know how to fix it. You never even tried. For the first time since meeting Richard Sinclair, I saw genuine regret inside his eyes. Not anger, not arrogance, just devastation. He looked at Olivia like he finally understood what he destroyed. I loved you, he whispered weakly. Olivia cried softly. Then why did I spend my whole life feeling like a scandal instead of a daughter? Richard couldn't answer. Because there wasn't an answer. The silence afterward felt unbearable. Finally, Olivia stood slowly. I forgive you, she whispered. Richard looked shocked. But I can't save you from yourself anymore. Then she turned and walked toward the door. I followed immediately. Behind us, Richard started crying harder. Real crying. Broken crying. The sound stayed trapped inside my chest, even after we left the house. Outside, cold wind moved through the trees while Olivia stared at the gray sky silently. How do you feel? I asked carefully. Tired. That's fair. She laughed softly through tears. Then she looked at me nervously. I'm leaving New York tomorrow. The words hit harder than I expected. Where? Boston first. Maybe Europe later. She swallowed hard. Somewhere quiet. I nodded slowly. Part of me already knew this moment was coming. You deserve peace, I whispered. So do you. We stood silently together for several seconds. Then Olivia asked the question I knew she carried for months. Do you regret meeting me? I looked at her carefully. At the woman who terrified me, changed me, destroyed parts of me, saved parts of me too. Then I answered honestly. You ruined my life, I said quietly. But you also saved me from becoming someone empty. Tears filled her eyes instantly. Before I could lose courage, I pulled her into my arms one last time. She held me tightly, like someone saying goodbye to the only safe place they ever found. The next morning, I watched her disappear into a crowded train station, carrying one small suitcase and years of pain behind her. She looked back only once. Then she was gone. And standing there alone, I finally understood something life-changing. Some people enter our lives to love us. Some enter to break us. And some somehow manage to do both at the exact same time.